So we had a class on campus. We just finished 3 hours of it. I mean, I intended just to have 1 hour lecture and 1 hour tutorial and then everybody have a rest. Unfortunately, a student asked a question right at the end. When we all finished, I got the question like, all right, we get it, Anya. So how do you do it in practice? Obviously, this is a 12-week unit. So I was hoping to do how do you do in practice a little bit today and a lot next week and a lot week after. Unfortunately, the question sort of stopped us in the tracks. At the same time, my computer ran out of its power, so I didn't record the third hour. But that's all right, because actually what will happen is as follows. I suggest that the theory that we covered today in the first hour and a little bit of uh, theory and practice we covered in the second hour, I think you can get it from the online lecture that I will record. And I think we could maybe focus today a little bit more on what's in it for us, a kind of thing. We will I mean, obviously I'm not going to cover the theory that I've covered in those two lectures, maybe just a little bit, but not really. And we will just sort of troubleshoot and see what's in it for you. So basically it's the third hour that I didn't record. I might just do with you today and we'll see how that will work out. What do you think? Okay, Troy, you've got to be now really, really vocal on this chat box so that we can get the feedback from you. Now, first of all, I would like to hear any questions you might have. Surely you have some questions. Okay, so basically I just summarize it before everybody gets kind of worried about all of these new concepts and so on. Just like we want our students one day to have abstract concepts and to have some understanding what they do, right? So abstract concept teach them understand or self-reflect. The same of us as teachers. I gave us few concepts or a figure with some sort of tools that we could have to help us to see how to work with the curriculum in terms of practice, of how to design a unit of work and how to actually evaluate other units of work. That's for assignment 1, actually to evaluate what other people do, and for assignment 2 to see what we would be doing. So we need a map, because without a map we really can't self-assess and we don't really know whether we've covered everything. And as I said in the on-campus class, we are paid to actually cover everything, right? So one of our responsibilities is actually to make sure that we cover the things that are required from us. So having a map as a reference guide is really good because you can always refer back. So now, sorry, I just finished teaching, so I just have to grab my thoughts. So there. So we will be working with this model for the next so many weeks. So none of this is gonna be actually a surprise for us, and we will be getting better and better in it. I have also shown to students today I might just take you quickly to what we did today in classroom. We basically looked at the concept of text. So it's a very good thing. We used the comedy sketch by, not the one about Elton John, but the one about uh, Mr. Bean being in hell, so that you can actually have a look, and we analyzed the text. It was very interesting how we couldn't really analyze it. I mean, what seemed to me to be obvious, people didn't have actually tools to actually know why they were laughing. So that's very good. That was lesson 1. Lesson 2, what we covered was actually we played with this video. I can't play it to you because you will not hear it. For some reason, the microphone only picks up what I say, not what the computer actually plays. Anyway, we were looking at the concept of social culture and educational capital actually by looking at the video of this boy, of this young man, actually performing at the X Factor. And we were trying to actually see whether we actually understood what he was doing there. He was just singing a song, but nothing is simple. So there. So as we were looking at these big things like a comedy sketch where people laugh, or why people actually switch languages in the middle of a song, and why is it that it's generating a reaction. And I will show it to you. You will not hear it, but you will say it. So he's starting to sing. You will not, you probably don't hear it. And then you see everybody is all right. The judges like him, right? So he's singing this song, whatever it is. Would you cry if you saw me crying? Would you save my soul tonight? So everybody likes him, right? Everybody is okay. Everybody is pleased with his song. And now look at this. And now he switches into Spanish, right? And look at her. And if you actually look, the white girls, I don't know, okay, they like it, but they okay. They're not as mad as the Latino woman was, right? So you can see what he did. He connected two people in America, the Latino population and the Anglo population. Anyway, you can actually look how he actually look his educational capital, which is being bilingual, to connect with people, which is the social capability or social capital, and then and how what message, what he was actually, in my view, actually um, passing by doing all these things. Not only I'm educated and 21st century guy, and not only because I want to actually connect both audience, I also legitimize the Latino people, right? We are here, we're playing a role, and we're here working together. So there you go, three types of capitals in one song, and these are the sort of interesting tools that Pierre Bourdieu gave us to actually look at text and what an action, what people do. So we've covered that and we discussed things in lesson 3. And then what happened, a student said, it's all good, Ania. And I hate those questions when I get, actually I like them. But I'm just looking for a proper slide to summarize it. I might just duplicate this one, remove this beautiful thing. Okay, and remove this one because it gives you clues. Okay, so basically I challenged in the second actually hour, and then we moved on to the third hour. I challenged our students and I said, well, we know all of this, that we have cross-curricular capabilities, and we have each of those capabilities. We could actually, at each of those capabilities, we could look from the perspective of the educational capital, symbolic capital, and the social capital, right? So however we would do it, we'll just create something, Anya, so that's all right. But I challenge, okay, so how do you know, what is it that we know about creating learning experiences or constructing learning experiences for our students? What concepts do we have that will tell us or help us to think where to start? Right? We can't start here. Obviously, if we have an Asian engagement, sustainability, and indigenous cultures, they are such high-level concepts that we just can't teach by training people to say E and type E, and then saying B and type B, and all of that. Okay, that's great. Curriculum gives examples. Wonderful. Like, for example, any ideas? Do you remember? Okay. I'm always dubious. I've read examples. And we know curriculum is so big. Each of us has read things. So I think it's very important to look into the curriculum for these examples, because for your assignment 1, when you have one section asks you about your experiences on learning literacy or seeing how the literacy was taught, either on your prac, you know, um, at your, in any context, basically. So either reflecting on you being taught or someone else teaching literacy. And then the last section, last assessment criterion is reflections altogether, like, so, where to from now. It'd be very good to actually look at those examples and see whether they actually are powerful, because I would love to know. And maybe, Lian, maybe you can actually send on the LearnLine, on the discussion board, link to pages where we can find it. And I've seen things, but I'm not sure whether we're looking at the same thing. So anyway, it would be great to actually compare. All right. So one of the concepts. But do we have, so curriculum gives examples, but is there a particular concept that we know where we can actually go for if we are thinking of developing learning experiences which are so big in scope, like any concept. Have you heard of any concepts? Do you have any in mind? Hard to think, isn't it? But anyway, it's all right. I'll just take you because I'm not going to cover here what we've covered in the lecture, so I'll just run through it a little bit faster. Have you heard of the concept of a rich task or macro task? Yeah, rich task. Oh my goodness. I want to actually type it, but okay. So we have rich tasks or macro task. I like the macro task word because rich task comes from Brisbane, and people have done to this concept so many things that I don't think the task is anymore recognizable. A lot of times people create these things, and you know, what started as a good idea ended up an interpretation of the good idea which is no longer as good as the initial good idea. So I'm just not, so I just think that macro task, nobody uses it, so I think it's a great concept because at least it's not actually um, tainted with someone's interpretation. So they basically, what they are ways in which we could actually think how we could engage students in a big activity. Someone in our classroom actually came with the idea of play. Now, of course, play, you will listen to the lecture online, and I have actually addressed it, what it means and how it was invented and how it is actually now quite obscure. Different people mean by this different things, and usually what they mean by this is a common sense, a word play in the common sense meaning of this, but actually it's nothing as simple, of course, so we address it in the lecture. But let's play at this very moment. So the student said to me, okay, Anya, so you've got the Asia engagement, and you want community, and you want indigenous cultures, and you want a rich task. It's all cool, but at the end of the day, what we have to do is to get students, what did she say, that students still have to answer to teachers' questions, and they have to, what did she say? And so basically the thing that we can't really engage students on their terms, and we can't make, for the lack of a better word, make students actually do things for others. How do you make, because we were talking about engaging children in actually in activities where they actually give as opposed to things being taken out of them. You know, when we always ask questions, we always interrogate these children, we always say this, tell me this, tell me this, tell me this, blah, blah, blah. And they always are giving, like it's always taken out of them, these things, but they never actually are given space to offer the space to give. Anyway, so the student didn't criticize, raised the question. It was wonderful. So that took us to an extra hour where we were actually looking at ways in which we could actually engage children in a macro task, and play will not be as an actually overriding thing, but so basically rich task is something that is, you know, like as I said, I'm not really sure what it means anymore in people's language, so I'm just gonna make it much softer. So rich task, I don't necessarily use it. So macro task and play will come underneath as as a strategy, but not actually as a macro task itself. Okay, so the macro task. So people said to me, okay, Anya, so how would you do it? How would you do it? So I didn't record it because we've run out of space. So what I did, I was actually gonna cover it, and I'll show you that a lot of slides here I have created. I wasn't gonna cover it fully, but I've done this thing. You see, there's something here happening. Then I've done this thing. Then I've done this thing. Then I've done this thing, and this thing, and this thing. So you can see there are weird things you haven't seen before, right? So what do we have here? Aboriginal legend of an Aboriginal map. Then we have Aboriginal paintings, which very often are a map because their stories actually related to the land and practices. This, I don't know, maybe it is also one of the maps. Then we have here, what is it? How to get to our campus, how to get to our school, right? I wish I could spell here, so it's places here. Then there is this thing. Then there is two different maps, and then there is two different ways of this is the indigenous again ways of mapping, of reading the map. So this is the legend. There are different types of maps, right? Oh my God. And then there's these things. So the world is big. So this is, I prepared it because I thought to myself one day we're gonna do that, but I wasn't sure about today. When I remove my email. So what I did, I said to students today, do you know anything about google.com? And they said everything. We know everything about google.com. So I was really happy because I needed my students to know. And we went to the map. And then you can't see the whole map because I made the screen small, because if I make the screen big, you can't. So in Google Maps how to use it, you just type the name of the place you're interested in. And I'm always interested in one name because my student works there. So I write primary, oh no, Parap primary. So imagine you sit with the children and we're just gonna look where we are, right? Oh my God, where are we? We lost each other. So primary again, Parap. I have to do something. I've done something. Parap primary. So we're here. And then if you actually, so we go like, we can actually discuss what it all means, what the map is, and then we can take them to here and they can have a look at the map. I think that's the Parap, or here. All right, and then we can play with the resolution of it, except that okay, so that we can play with the resolution, make it a bit bigger. Oh my God, this is really good. You can see the swimming pool on the left, and the school is bigger, right? And then we can actually check the activities we do. Now where do we go? We go to the pool. This is a tennis court. This is the children's pool. And then where do we live? Where do we live? And you can play. You can play and play. See how you're learning about the community where you live? Oh my God, it's bigger than my house. I knew that because I travel with my father and mother and friends and all of that, right? And actually you have prepared this, of course, before. So the things that I'm going to tell you about, you already have prepared. So for example, you could actually take them to this place here. Oh, not here. This is like a bus stop or something, somewhere here. And as we actually close down on it, we will find out, we could actually go to Street View now, and we would find out, for example, that this is an HK center. Oh my God, what's an HK center? We could have a look at pictures and find out what an HK center is, hey? We could. It is amazing what would turn out. And then, once we know about the HK center, we might actually go and have a look at it. Do you see how I'm drawing children now, or students, on learning about their community? So we've lost it a little bit. Okay, so I'm drawing them to actually learn about their community, and they go to this HK center, they meet up with HK centers, and your HK center has the director who runs it, but then also you have activity officers there, and activity officers actually look after the well-being of the patients, of the residents. So they create lots of activities, and part of a HK center activity officer is actually that they have to have PD, and they also have to create community relationships, just like you. Activity officer in the residential HK center has no different obligations than you do in schools. Create community relationships and create activities that are actually supporting the residents in their well-being. All right. So what you might do is actually discuss it with the activity officer, what you want them to actually show to children, bring the children there, and the people could actually show to little children pictures of themselves, for example, from when they were 20, maybe when they were 5. Oh my God, isn't this amazing? What could we do with this? We might actually even, borrow some of them or put them on the internet, or on a disk, somehow scan them or whatever and put them on the disk in the HK Center. Together we could do them. And what can we do with this? What can we do? And you just, as you actually engage with children, what you actually want them to do, you engage them in the task of doing something for their HK residents. For example, what they could do is creating what we call a vignette. A vignette is basically a video or a PowerPoint. In PowerPoint you can create it and then make it into a movie. So basically what children do, they create a little story of the life of one of the residents, and each of them can do of a different resident, right? And then they can use descriptors to title those pictures. They can use your imagination now here, what they can use. Now we will be discussing throughout the semester how you actually support an activity of this kind. But you can see that if you ever wanted an activity that is driven by, that is actually engaging students or something. Can you still see my screen? Yes, you can. So if you wanted ever an activity which is actually encompassing different aspects of communicative engagements, and which is community oriented, and which actually also, so it's community oriented, that's sustainability. And then other aspects that you could engage is, for example, some of the residents will come from different countries. And what you can actually, as students are creating those vignettes, they could create audiobooks. They could create anything, right? Or stories. They could decorate the HK Center with stuff, right? So there's a lot of things that children can actually do for an HK Center. Now, as they actually, but let's stick to the vignette, which is a story about someone's life. As they actually do that, and you could do it with pre-literate children. You can do it with pre-literate children, and I have actually included in the modules different tricks of how to use technology in order to actually make things like this possible, even when you work with little children like 4 or 5 year olds. Anyway, but if you have residents that are in Asia, Asian residents, or if you don't, but you still would like some of these stories to be communicable, whatever it is, comprehensible to people who speak languages other than English, for example, any of the Asian languages, you just simply, whatever story they produce, whatever text children produce in the vignette, you go to the Google Translator and they will copy and paste. So they paste their English text and they will get Vietnamese, Cambodian, Indonesian and all of that. They don't have to understand it. But the fact that they grow awareness that there are different alphabet systems, that people function in different alphabet systems, and the fact that they paste it, it not only teaches them awarenesses but also respect that people actually do not have to be one way. So they have they grow respect for other ways of being. So as you can see, and they also, as they have these people in the HK Center of different looks from different countries, they learn also about how different people look, what different clothes they wear. Maybe they were raised in Indonesia, but now they are in Australia, so they could actually have a look how the roads looked like, how the houses used to look in Indonesia. They could actually maybe go to Google and collect now pictures of the same places where these residents were living back then, and now how these places, those little towns, look like. The same maybe places. So you go on Google Maps and you do that. Now you can see and that what we discussed today, right in the third hour, was actually the possibility that one can do more than just exercise, phonics when you learn, when you actually work with children uh, so, and aim to support their literacy skills. Another thing that we did was, as we actually are learning about the concept of the map, we also learned that the map is not a map. A map is always created by it's a cultural artifact, right? So, for example, Aboriginal maps. What's the function of? Oh, I have two of them. Isn't it lovely? So, what's the function of the Aboriginal map? Right? It's. Pardon me. To tell a story. So the land. So everyone. So we have lines. Our maps are lines about the land, but their maps, they have, so they relate to the land in terms of the stories, right? So, for example, this is how so there is the kangaroo land, and this is the emu land. This is the emu land in dry season. This is the kangaroo land in dry season or in the wet season, and these are so the land is divided into stories and also into seasons, and God knows into what. I'm not indigenous enough to actually tell you, but I have actually met some of the most famous painters when I lived in Canberra, Aboriginal painters, and I actually went to their workshop and I learned a little bit. So the land is not divided into lines, but is divided into stories, the stories by which they live, and the stories which regulate their life. So our stories which regulate our life are here. We have roads. These people don't necessarily have roads, but they have things they do in the land, right? So same function, which is orientation of oneself in the land, but because the purpose is a little bit different, because we don't do what Aboriginal people do, therefore the map reflects a different way of organization. And it's very interesting. We had also international students today in on-campus lecture, and I asked them, how did the map, for example, in Indonesia or in East Timor look like before the Portuguese landed there? I mean, you ask me, how did the Polish people draw maps before we had the map like this one? I haven't got a clue. I think we always had it like that, like we always spoke Polish, like we were always blonde or brown or whatever. I mean, honestly, I have no idea. But because I am limited, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't actually check the internet and learn how the maps looked like in ancient times, where the maps in the West always lines and the maps somewhere else stories, were stories everywhere. I mean, only Aboriginal cultures had maps which were like stories. I mean, I have no idea. Do you? I'll challenge you. So, but you see, when we actually look at the learning experience that we do create for children as a macro task, you can see how the things like sustainability, but in the term of community, I call it, for lack of a better word, I call it community orientation, learning about your community. And here I don't mean just parents. I mean, really, one day you would take children to the Red Cross. One day you can take them to the aged care center. Another day you take them to some other cultural community where where children can have an opportunity to explore what's going on and address maybe people's needs. And definitely one of the needs that aged care residents have is company and entertainment. And little children are a rare sight in an aged care center, and they will be absolutely delighted. And if little children did something for older people, whether it's a book or a play or paintings or the vignettes of their life stories, I mean, imagine that. And I'll tell you another thing. Every week, aged care centers run community days, and every so often they have an open day where older people sit around and display something that they are interested in. And how do I know? Because I've done voluntary work in aged care centers, and I also worked part-time for Council on the Aging, which is an NGO, non-government organization in Canberra. And I also, because I am, whatever I am, I did particular things with aged care centers, and I provided services, usually technology-based. Anyway, what I'm aware of that happened, a guy came from for a conference in Melbourne. He came from America, and he actually was talking about projects like this, and he was saying even though the activity officers take all the people through online games, because the online games do miracles to all the people, like they keep their brains alive, and sometimes they really just take them through from the depression into some sort of engagement. So that's all good, he says. But when there was an open day in the particular aged care center he was actually talking about, the lady whose family created a vignette for her sat in her wheelchair, and on the open day she didn't want to engage the games, she didn't want to show that she can play. All she was doing is over and over again, I will read that message soon, Lian, over and over again the lady was just sorry, just what had an idea. The lady was basically showing over and over again the vignette. She was so proud for people to learn that she actually used to be young, and this is how she looked, and this is what she used to do, and this is who she was, and so on, right? So it was amazing. It was about her self-esteem, really, and also a way of connecting others with herself, right? Because nothing hurts more than loneliness and feeling irrelevant. You know, when people feel irrelevant and ignored, their brain has actually the mapping on the brain, that activation on the map on the brain is the same as when they are in pain. So, you know, loneliness and lack of connections and so on kills. It just simply kills. I used to be a girl guide leader, and we used to talk our girls to take our girls aged care center at least once a year to engage them. Absolutely. And it's amazing what children also learn is they actually get to experience age. They also get to experience how and you know, their grandmothers. I mean, let's face it, I'm 50 something, I could have been a grandmother of a teenager pretty much, right? So, well, sort of. What I'm saying is those grandparents are not as old of those children, so it's a different category of old age, right? It's like their great grandparents, but might be living in Melbourne while you are in Darwin or something like that, so they don't actually see them that often. So it's really a good connection as well. So they learn about age, they learn how to give, they actually get an emotional satisfaction out of it themselves. They learn about cultures, they learn about languages, they learn about how to actually, and you know, eventually they might be even able to actually say some things in any of the Asian languages or Aboriginal languages, as they actually are creating these vignettes or audiobooks and so on. So it's a fully, totally social task. I'll just read Troy. Considering the complete lack of respect some kids have to elderly, that's a great idea. Yeah, it doesn't come from nowhere, right? We usually don't like that which is unfamiliar, right? As someone said somewhere on Facebook or somewhere, I mean, they said it's really hard to be angry with someone, you know, or kill or some. Oh, it's really hard to kill someone you really know. I mean, unless you're a psychopath, right? But it's really hard. So as you can see, I will be actually. So I'm taking you through a little bit of a peek for the next 10 weeks or 8 weeks of our semester to show you where it all is going. So, for example, even this little discussion that we're having so far, when you actually are thinking of your assignment 1, in assignment 1, the question is, can you reflect on experiences you had as being taught literacy, or you've seen literacy being taught? So can you make some comments? And then in reflections, you talk about where to from here. So this gives you a bit of a insight about what is called often authentic tasks, but it's not often actually done in an authentic way. But I will show you how many things are possible and how much this map, as we work with it, will help us to actually create support activities for children to actually do it and do it well and in a learner-oriented way and with satisfaction, and they always feel at every step supported. All of this I give you before I come back. I'll just come back to this slide soon. What I give you through this is not just a structure how to design a learning experience. This is also a structure which materials you will put in for children to explore in order to be able to do it. And once you actually have a map of what you have actually facilitated to support children in this macro task, you have a map of how to assess it. So what basically this little graph gives us is not only an experience on, not only a graph to reflect on our literacy experiences, it's a graph now to also reflect on how we will design learning experiences and assess. It's our little map. Now, I don't want to actually overload you this week and give you all the 12 weeks in one lesson, because you still have the 2 hours to watch that I will upload shortly on YouTube as soon as I actually get offline, because I only finished teaching at 4 o'clock my time. I came here, had something to eat, and taught again. So I'll upload the 2-hour lecture, so it will be in 2 parts. But this is a kind of peek ahead. Where are we going with all of this? And what we're going away is a pedagogy where all of us were sitting looking at one book, and teacher was asking questions, and the whole thing was just a drill. And at the end of the class, we gave students some games. And this is a kind of design that you see quite often in schools. And if you actually analyze a design of that kind in relation to the curriculum, you will see that it doesn't address any of the capabilities. Definitely is not driven by students' engagement. And it creates an environment where teachers are doing all their work, children are just sitting there and responding accordingly, and it's kind of boring. But leaving out the pedagogy aspect, what I'm really saying is, I am so happy we have this curriculum. And you know what? As I often say, I'm one of the people who actually loves the curriculum. I'm sure that it can be improved. I am also sure that there will never be a perfect curriculum. But what I'm happy about the curriculum is the fact that it has these higher order thinking skills, or higher order skills, because it actually allows us to stretch our thinking about what's involved in interaction, so in literacy, in communication, than just simply letters. I'm just going to read the comment from one of our students, because I can't. Okay. So it's from Lian. I'll just copy it so other students can see once they log into this collaborative session. Think I might just, oh my god, you see it? I agree, some kids don't have the opportunity to interact with older people, no grandparents and so on, making these connections to a small group of a particular group of people, old culture, yeah, that's right. Then people in general have a greater empathy for all the people in the same group on a wider scale. Yeah, and what it is you know how very often in schools we have to connect with the community, and very often this ends up to be just family. And I'm saying there's a world out there. Get out from the school. You don't have to always be in the sandpit and you know, and under the tree or on the mat in the classroom. Get out from the school, have a look, use resources. And one of the things I have to tell you, I'm old enough to appreciate all the resources which are online, because I remember, like say, even the Google Maps, as simple as it seems to, as simple as the Google Maps seem to be, we didn't have them when I was, you know, younger. We just didn't have any of that. Now there is so much, and with that little game on the map, with the maps, and exploring and learning about different ways of representing information, learning about community through Google Maps and so on, it's amazing what we can create. And then you can create another unit of work where your children will actually create a map how to get to our school, like this one. This is I created, you know, this was just a concept, so it's really showing how I mean, this is really bad, but if people clicked, so you can go to school, look at this, you can walk, and I found this tired person. Can you see it? So this is this tired person, so you can get to school by walking, you can get to school by riding a bike, like underneath. You can go to school by tuk-tuk, which of course you can't, and then you can use a sports car. And then you can they have this meeting place. You see, in Aboriginal cultures, usually the circle is a meeting place, and on the left it's represented as a school, as a lecture theater, but on the right I have represented it as a circle. And then you have areas. You can use those emu steps that somewhere where you can actually walk, and then somewhere where you can ride the bike, and then you can play with the symbols from the Aboriginal legend, right? Using Aboriginal legend symbols, you can actually create a legend for your map. This is just me, okay? This is just a concept, just to get people's imagination going. There's nothing good about this map other than just things to provoke your imagination. Everything else looks just bad. But kids will produce amazing things, and they can do it using PowerPoints. They can do it using WordPress. You click here, you go there. You click here, you go there. You click here, you go there. And that's a little bit of a story about your school. You can create cuttings from the Google Maps to represent the school, and then you can actually work with your indigenous culture person in the school to actually create maybe an Aboriginal version of the map of the school. There's an indigenous officer always in Darwin, in the NT schools. I don't know about other states, but then you can actually engage someone online, or you can, I don't know, whatever the means will be, the schools will have. The point is that you can actually learn how different cultures, you can engage different cultures, you can engage different representations of buildings and of movement and of whatever, and create things. So from one unit of work where you actually worked on creating a vignette or creating a book for older people, or pictures for older people, you can move on to creating now. You can continue with the concept of the map, and now actually children can, in the next unit of work, create a map, an interactive map of their school. And then you can go to the next thing, and since they have a map of their school, then in the next sort of unit of work they can create actually a page about their classroom, their school, right? So with different, about telling things, what they do, what they like, and all of that. So you can just literally continue the same, build almost in a natural way, which is much more interesting and worthwhile than what I sometimes see. Today we do frogs, tomorrow we will be doing transport, the next fortnight we will be doing travel agency, and then we will be doing animals in the desert, right? And if there is no continuity, it's kind of jumpy, and we don't teach children to think in a aligned, coherent, ongoing way. Yeah, I agree, Troy. Curriculum will always be changing. And curriculum doesn't just reflect the new demands of a society, although it does. It also reflects political swings and God knows what else. But we are in the 21st century, and no curriculum will ever deny the 21st century skills, which is the higher order skills. No curriculum will say children must just be able to behave obediently, right? Nobody will do it. Nobody will dare to do it. And I'm happy with it, because what's actually very often missing from our teaching is that link to the higher order skills, because we don't know how to actually work with the curriculum, or we don't even know how to work with rich tasks. We don't know how to support rich tasks. And if you actually go through the lecture 1 and lecture 2 today, you will see how we were discussing it actually. I'll just read this text and copy it for others to see. And I'll copy it under my little avatar. You should watch how you can use avatar. Oh my god, this is such a good thing, especially for pre-literacy children. You can actually do a lot of things with avatar, even when children can't even read and write. My daughter is 3 years. My daughter's three-year teacher had them to do a whole term theme across all learning areas. One term it was oceans, another term was water safety, but just as you are saying, she carried the same theme rather than just learning for the sake of learning. Right. So exactly. But the theme for her, it was the theme for her was water. But for me, it's not internet or anything. But for me, the theme is engagement in the community, right? Because I draw my theme not from the curriculum, but I draw it from the curricular priorities. So one will be aged care, people. Another could be, what did I say? Could be creating an online map of a school. So it's just a general community thing that you do for anybody, just a lovely thing for the school community, for the people for the visitors. And the other one I said, what was the other one? Create a web a site of the class or of a school. And that would be nice if you were to engage a sister school. You know, everybody has sister schools. So say in China or somewhere, you know, so you actually, so this is still about engagement. It's still about community engagement. So here it's a purpose. It's not actually oriented towards an object like an ocean, which I don't have a problem with, but it's not about object. So the theme is not coming from an object, but it's coming from actually the cross-curricular priorities, engagement in the community, right? And then we actually explore the community. So different units of work will be reflecting different ways in which we actually facilitate for children to actually be within the community. But yes, and those units of work, those larger macro tasks are great because children have for a number of weeks, like a whole term, exactly. They have a single focus and they engage in a creative activity and they collect information, they explore what's relevant, what's not, so they evaluate, which means that they actually do lots of critical thinking, and they do it by learning about the society, which is the social, they're learning therefore about themselves, they're learning about how to be, they develop cultural awareness, which is the intercultural element, they learn how to be actually respectful and therefore ethical, and they also learn, and then before, as I said, critical and being critical and also engaging creatively. And just to cover up this little peek into the future, I will take you here. Now, I will still think how I will, whether I will change this graph or not, but at this very second, what you can see here, that basically the design is, like you said, a whole term project. It's a project. And on the left, I said the teacher creates support, which is, say, that those 5 activities that you will be doing for assignment 2 will be that support you will be actually designing so that children are supported in the context of reading. So each lesson would be the activities you will design in order to engage to engage the support, right? So activities will be designed in order for children to actually engage the support you created so that they actually get on with the project. So that's the sort of very simple framework for designing activities. And you can also use this framework for evaluating whether you have actually seen things like that around. So Lian has seen the ocean thing carried on in different ways. People were actually learning about their environment, and that's good. But I need still purpose. Every activity has to have an audience. It has to be purpose oriented. Why are we doing this? So even if the theme is ocean, I still want to say, who is the object of my engagement? Because what I would like to avoid is children to do things just for themselves or for the teacher. That's a little bit narrow and not motivating. And doing everything for parents, it's not that interesting, because I have actually seen children coming home with all these objects and parents only can give this much time to it. But when children do something like for the aged care people, right, when there is a total event created out of it, right, and when all the people really appreciate it and so on, it's a bigger, it's you are being recognized or appreciated outside of your home area, which is very, very different. I mean, we could do anything. We could actually show to children how to actually, you know, we could create a learning resource. Children can create a learning resource how to actually train dogs for all I care, right? Imagine that. I mean, there's 5 million things we can do if we permit ourselves, if we're not stuck with the model where we just read Dr. Seuss and then we don't read Dr. Seuss for actually aesthetical experience, but in order to actually learn how to count, oh my God, learn how to count to 6 or something, right? Because usually these texts are not used for aesthetic experience, but for something else. So the year sevens at my work did the whole time working on business. Great. They had to design, make, market, and sell product. Exactly. It was very engaging. Some kids loved it. And the kids loved it. Most made food. Other groups made something, and stress balls. Yeah, exactly. Right, real things. And then go to the markets and create a market, and then collect some money and tell children that we went to the zoo today and the money for the bus was paid by the scones or by the hacky sacks. I don't know what it is, but it sounds good. Whatever we sold at the local markets. Great. Exactly. And they learn about business. They also can learn about business, how to actually do business, and what doing a business does, and all of that. So it's all oriented towards, as I said, be engaging community, being with people, doing things. Like, if you actually go to the market and make things for the market, it's learning the business skill, learning how to advertise, learning how to dress to look, um, the way you should if you actually are representing yourself and trying to sell it. So tomorrow we're gonna do the markets and we're gonna look nice. The whole concept of self-esteem. I mean, I know that even in Darwin, we very often wear, thongs and boxing shorts. But now, teaching children that how you dress does matter. And then tomorrow we're going to the market and we're going to all look nice, okay? Look nice. And then we can actually explore how children look nice. And then we're just going to all look nice. We'll make sure that our uniforms look nice. We actually will wear uniforms to be recognizable as children from our school and all of that. We're going to look nice. So that will make children think that if they wear uniforms, they look nice. But, they will buy it. That's great. And they do look nice in those uniforms. So anyway, it's engagement, doing things for purpose, learning how to do things. So they don't learn literacy because they need to actually be able to tell the difference between A and B. They learn literacy so that they can run a business. Exactly. You could do it even with 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. You can do anything. It's just that they obviously will not be learning how to do a Wall Street journal, right? That what they will be doing is basically something. I did click on it. I hope I didn't lose the thing. What's this? Let's have a look. I'm gonna do that. All right. So now we're learning what these hacky sacks are, right? What are they, Lian? Can you see my screen? Can you see those balls? Amazing. Just amazing. Oh my God. Guatemala Worry Doll legend. Oh my God. And you see, you got all the cultural experiences straight there. Ah. I mean, honestly, I don't have to teach you how to teach literacy. You have it. I'll just teach you how to do the tricks with literacy. I'll teach you about tricks, but all of this is there. So it's amazing. We have kids who live in the real world, right? Yeah, they're very cheerful. I agree, Sophia. Our kids live in the real world. At the age of 5, they can say jokes. They can tell you the movie they watched and all of that. They have full capacity. So whether they're 5-year-old or 15-year-old, they live in the real world. Make them connect and use literacy for what literacy has been invented, which is to actually help us to manage our lives. Right? Without the literacy, we wouldn't be able to have accounts. We wouldn't be able to actually transfer money. We wouldn't be able to read someone else's thoughts. We wouldn't be able to do lots of things. The literacy was actually designed. We use literacy for the purposes of our culture. So let's get involved in culture and let's just do it. So that's just about it I wanted to cover for the day. So I will upload all the 3 things, which is lecture 1, lecture 2. I mean, the 2 hours of the lecture we had on the campus, and it has some theory, so it will be very useful if you actually watched it. And then this collaborative session, which you actually have participated in, so you no longer have to watch it, but other people might benefit. Anyway, that's all I wanted to actually cover for the day. Are you all happy? Was it easy? I think it was. Yeah, we will take it through the next so many weeks. But this is exciting. I mean, there's a reason why people do all these things, right? I'm not the only one saying these things. And schools, many schools actually have grown to actually love people doing these things. Um, yeah, and for example, when I was talking about the Asian connection as well, which is in the curriculum, like my student who is a literacy teacher in the Parab school, she went to an international conference, the university paid for her, but the school said because she's actually engaging her school in the cross curriculum priority, which is the Asian connection, they actually paid her for the time she was overseas, so she didn't actually lose her pay, which her salary, which she was very afraid to do, right? So university paid for her trip, and school paid for her working days. And because she was actually doing things that actually fed into activities that she then does with sister school, which they have, I think, where's her sister school? I forgot by now. I think it's in Japan, right? So she was actually bringing the international experiences back to school. So all these international experiences are worthwhile. We don't live in a fishbowl, right? Our fishbowl is big. It is an ocean, if I could quote Lian's theme. Anyway, um, all right. So I might finish on that note. And Troy, congratulations for being maths genius. That's great. Um, and you can easily think of ways, yeah, of ways how you can um, engage different learning areas as well. Anyway, so that's just about it for today. And I think that we had a good peek into the future, so we know why we're learning all of these capabilities and all of that, so that we can see that only in this way we can so basically with the capabilities which need to be addressed, and they inform those larger tasks, so we can now marry these macro tasks and capabilities and think now how we can create a support so that children can actually uh, engage with those capabilities, and therefore we as teachers are actually engaging with the curriculum, which means we are being paid, we are doing for what we are actually being paid. All right, so I will say goodbye to you, and I will close the lecture. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being so good. Thank you. That was so good. I mean, Lian, amazing. Troy, too. Great. Thank you.